Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Michigan Conservative Roundtable. Mac, TJ, today we're going to talk a little bit about how the left just destroys everything they get involved in. And they ruin everything. And I'm encroaching a little bit on a topic that Dennis Prager likes to talk about, but so be it. We're going to talk about it. We have some different feelings about it. I'm going to start off with free speech. They claim they're all for free speech. Yet, the only thing they consider free speech is their speech. Any speech that doesn't agree with them is hate speech. Even though there's no hate involved in it, they couldn't begin to tell you how it's hateful, just that they don't like it.
Well, and I'm going to follow it up because I was thinking in terms of language, which is kind of splitting hairs with free speech. But just recently, New York City has decided to issue, and I think I heard this right, and I heard him talk about it on the 5 at 5, so I'm pretty sure I heard this right, a fine of $250,000 if you use the term illegal alien. They're going to write you, they're going to cite you a fine. Jesse Waters, and this is why I think I heard this correctly, Jesse Waters commented that it's intended as a scare tactic because who can afford a $250,000 fine? And that's the glaring example of speech control, language control, rewriting of definitions and terms and whatnot. And I'd also like to mention a Canadian. If you've been watching YouTube, you had to have heard of this guy by now, Jordan Peterson, out of Canada. Kind of getting popular here in the States, and he really kind of got known for him coming, basically fighting against the Canadian government with their speech control. And he was a professor, and they was pretty much telling him what he could and couldn't say in his classroom, and he said enough. And so he's making the rounds, and now he's no good. Off with his head.
Yeah, to back up a little bit, I'd love to see the president go to New York City and say illegal alien about a dozen times in a speech and dare them to write him a ticket. I'd love to see that.
Well, I think even Jesse Waters was saying it on 5 at 5 or something.
Right. Yeah,
like come cite me or something.
Because that's going right to the courts where it's going to get struck down. It's clearly a violation of our First Amendment right to free speech.
I'd like to do a topic of mine.
Okay.
Near and dear to my heart, the military. Liberalism has had such a negative effect. The left, liberalism, however we want to phrase it, has a negative effect on the military. And I'd like to start from this premise. Okay. In the military, your mission is, your objective is to accomplish the mission. Whatever it takes, you accomplish the mission. And they are going to jeopardize accomplishing the mission with all sorts of, well, let's put women in this unit. They want to put women on the front line. And I will yield this point to the feminists. Yes, you will find a tomboy that could possibly outperform a less masculine man. But it goes beyond male-female gender. It has to do with the personal relationships that invariably will develop in a close-knit unit. And the way men are with each other is a world of difference from the way men are with women, and the way it affects a battlefield scenario in accomplishing the mission. And I'm just going to stress time, and whenever I talk to someone about this, it's accomplish the mission, accomplish the mission, accomplish the mission. And you know what? From a military perspective, that's all that matters. The military breaks things and destroys and seeks out and destroys and search and destroy mission, and I'll just get going. So we'll leave it at that.
I think that they want to put the mission secondary to the fact that we need to fix this. There's any difference between men and women, which there clearly are. I mean, Even in my best day, I don't think I could beat Ronda Rousey in a fight, but that would be the exception more than the rule, and I'll use rapes as an example. If men weren't able, in general, to overpower women with such success, you wouldn't have as many rapes as you do. They're the state of violence. It's not a sex act, it's a violence act, it's a domination act. But they're able to physically overpower them, and that's how these rapes happen.
Yeah, the whole transgender thing has exposed that little flaw in their logic. Just one more thing. My sister back in the day was a much better softball player than I was, so you know, yes, there's no. I'm not even going to dispute how there are the exceptions. There's exceptions to everything out there.
Right.
Okay, so. Yeah, my sister was quite the
This might be a good
player.
case where if you throw like a girl, it's a good thing.
Yeah, you know what? I guess so.
Okay,
I guess so.
One of the things that they're ruining is story time for kids. For some reason, and it's probably the reasons we're talking about, there seems to just be this overpowering need to have stories read to children by drag queens. I mean, who even thought that up? Where's that come from?
I don't know, but that's just that kind of goes hand in hand with my pet peeve here, education. How they're more worried about indoctrinating political correctness than actual teaching. And when a transgender's at the library reading to the kids, I don't know if they're really thinking about what he's reading as opposed to. Who's up there reading this to me? What is that up there reading this to me?
Yeah, is that a man pretending to be a woman, or what is that?
Or just someone
let me
in
back
disguise.
that up a little bit. If we were going to, in the city I live in here in Michigan, it's rather conservative, it's rural, unlike where you live, which is less so. But can you imagine if in the city you live in, at the main library, they were having story time with conservatives?
They'd be crucified.
They'd burn it down.
They would be crucified. And they're not even really. They're using the education system to rewrite history.
Yes.
I mean, it's a lot of times we'll say that they're indoctrinating in school, which is definitely the case. But the indoctrination includes the rewriting of history. They've taken the basic skills. And you've heard me say in a previous video how graduating class, no one had a working knowledge of your basic arithmetic. It's just taking the Pledge of Allegiance out of the schools in the morning. Just a complete breakdown of that whole area.
Well, it's we've in the Prager video you see the example of how they take down the picture of William Shakespeare and put up a little to not known at all black lesbian author, a poet. You see this over and over again with the taking down of the statues. Statues, they're not deities, they aren't the people, but they are to remind us of an event and the character, perhaps.
Well, the rewriting of history, there you go.
Or the lack of it. And that's what's behind the tearing down of the statues, most of which these people know nothing about the statue or the person they're tearing down. Again, the destruction of the left. They destroy everything they come in contact with.
Law enforcement. The upper echelon, to include, high-ranking city officials, they have handcuffed rank and file, pardon the pun. You got, just the other day, that Fairfax officer was put on suspension because he turned that illegal alien over to ICE.
That's $250,000 there.
I guess so. You know what? Yeah,
You're wrapping it up.
Can't say that in New York, huh? But they've completely gutted. It's not even a matter of corrupting. I feel like they've gutted the whole law enforcement, and you can add the judicial part of it also. You've heard in one of my previous videos how the judicial system sucks. So, they've gutted it all.
More and more cops are getting killed, and that may be the case because of hesitation.
Well, yeah, and you heard, and this goes back 6 months. I read it 6 months ago. I want to say I read an article of a female cop who got beat pretty severely because she was afraid to pull her gun. And her sidearm, pardon me for the purists out there, she was hesitant to pull her sidearm, and she got beat pretty severely. So again, just a total gutting of law enforcement.
Comedy. They've ruined comedy. The only kind of comedy you see, if you turn on the Comedy Central channel, or go to these stand-up comics, it's almost all racist or ethnic based. You can bash the hell out of white people. You can make all the jokes about white people that you want. Conservatives are stupid. For years we've seen on TV show, the father is a dupe. The classic example being Homer Simpson. Now granted, that's a cartoon, but go show by show, and the dad is a dupe. The mom always knows more. The grandma always knows more. The kids always know more than the dad because he's a doofus. Jerry Seinfeld.
Homer Simpson was made to look like a real goofball.
Right.
I never really watched that show, and especially once I kind of connected those dots, I had pretty much made up my mind. I said, okay, you know what, it might be funny, but it ain't that funny.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld, who's never really been done races in his stand-up, doesn't want to go to college campuses because they're too oversensitive, and they freak out over anything that they think might be offensive to anyone.
And I think maybe you'll confirm this. Was it Bill Maher that was vicious on Sarah Palin?
Yeah.
I mean, he just, and he's supposed to be funny, ha-ha, and of course his tainted audience, they're going to clap and laugh and applaud, and as he
mocks
totally berates
her child with Down syndrome.
It just
because that's always funny.
You know what? To me, that was unpardonable how he treated Sarah Palin. So, but dare I say any of that? You know, diet. Gee, or where do you even start? You know, they have. I'll just say they've kind of had left us at an impact on what we eat now, or what we're supposed to eat, or what not supposed to eat. And I have a theory here. And if you notice, a couple videos ago, when I did the climate change sins, it seemed to be a really big deal about cooking a steak or eating a steak once a week or too many times a week or whatever. And the so-called purity of being a vegan, or however you say the word vegan.
Yeah.
But, you know, at first, if you think back a couple years ago, I think, and this goes to a theory of mine, I think a couple years ago, it was kind of started as an animal rights issue, equating animal life to human life, so we shouldn't be eating animals. And I get the feeling. I can't point to any study, so this is just a feeling I have. You know what? It's my opinion, okay? It's my opinion that what started off as an animal rights issue didn't quite cut it, so now they're going to turn it into a climate change issue.
Right.
You know, through climate change, you will get with the program, you will cease eating meat, and there it goes. There it goes. Not, you know what? You're a sinner if you eat meat.
Well,
okay?
Think about the fact that AOC has a meeting, and I'm not blaming AOC. You can't control what gets said in your audience. But a woman stands up, clearly mentally not well, says that we got to eat the babies. We're supposed to eat the dead, but there's not enough time. We only have a few months to live. We got to eat the babies. If she had gotten up there and said we got to eat the cats and the dogs, they'd have burned down the Capitol building the next day.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah,
big time. All right, well, I'm talked out.
Okay, well, I'm going to go on with a couple more.
Just some of my thoughts.
Yeah, a couple of more things. They've destroyed the Bible. You can go out into a store, and I wasn't aware of this, but I was in a Christian bookstore one day, killing my time on lunch and looking at some books, and I hear a guy come up and ask for an inclusive Bible. And I thought, inclusive Bible? What does that mean?
You know, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with language, too, because
it does.
Because, you know, the original King James Version was basically interpreted right after the Shakespearean time. So it's in that type of English, and that if you speak with that type of English, you're mocked. I mean, you know what? If you speak with proper English, you're mocked. Let alone that.
Especially if you're black.
Yeah, especially that.
Because then you're too white.
So I got to think, yeah. There's.
But in this inclusive Bible, there's no right and wrong. There's no he or she. Anything that they feel might be offensive to anyone who might read it, it's got to go. So, I mean, is it really even a Bible? Of course not. They've ruined it. And the last thing I'm going to bring up is they've ruined the truth. They would tell you, he has a truth, I have a truth, my dog upstairs has got a truth. There's a truth.
My cat at home has a truth.
Yeah, well, that may be. But because cats are different. But they'll tell you that everyone has their own. That's nonsense. The definition of the word of truth tells you that cannot be. They don't accept reality. They think reality is based on your perception.
Well, remember, they don't believe in facts, or what was it? They believe facts over truth, or
yeah,
something?
Facts over
whatever
truth.
Biden said that one time.
That's Biden. All right, so I think we kind of talked that one out. So they ruin everything they touch, and that's why we say, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.